Where was that first gig?
Where?
Yeah.
The first gig was actually the summer before, like it was in the summertime before I actually started school officially. Yeah. It was probably early August at the Gypsy Tea Room, which is a famous club on Main Street in Dallas.
Yeah. How are you feeling when you walk up on stage and you're just like, hi, Graham Colton, standing there with your guitar looking out at like a few people just like, this is it.
Because that was the first real show, like an actual, not a gig, but a show, a concert.
Yeah.
And I had this shitty acoustic guitar. I remember putting tape on my guitar where only I could see it that had the lyrics to my own songs because I was so nervous.
On the top
of the guitar, right on the top. When you hold it, there's a piece of tape right there. And I remember putting a little cheat sheet of songs, and I didn't have enough material. I only had like 5-6 songs that I could play live. But once I did it and got through it, I learned a lot. And I was opening for another artist that ended up producing, a guy named Carrie Pierce, who ended up producing my first kind of official album. And that started just like, I was hooked.
So from that moment, you're like, this is it.
This is it.
Yeah. I don't want to be doing anything else.
Nothing else.
Everything
School didn't matter.
Yeah.
Nothing else mattered, but just, and it was a really cool time for, like, if you were a dude with a guitar with songs that were sort of, love rock songs, right? Like there was a place for you because all the songs that were kind of being traded around the internet were sort of this like, John Mayer was really happening at that point. Dave Matthews was obviously still kind of one of the biggest acts around. So there was this like, all the music that was being traded was kind of this college rock, pop, acoustic thing.
Good timing.
And I was able to, even though I didn't totally sound like John Mayer or sound anything like Dave Matthews, we all kind of found ourselves. And I say we all because at that time there were a bunch of guys and bands just like me in different cities kind of doing the same thing. So we all have kind of a similar story. That was it. So I just fell into that right time. And what's interesting is that was right around the time 9/11 happened. So my sophomore year, I remember going to class. I was a part-time student at that time, so I'd already like diminished my schedule, to go play gigs in Austin and San Antonio and Waco, and 9/11 happened, and a group of us got together and we wrote a song for an album called Bands for America, and it was just this little record that some people heard, and I got some attention from that little album that was from this just insane time. And that was actually kind of a big moment. It's interesting.
Going from playing just regional stuff to then you're on that record, and then it's like...
then you're surrounded by, Jack Johnson was on that EP, and, some different people that were, real artists, and there I was,
part-time
on this,
kid.
Even in this terrible time that was just a crazy, insane experience. Even that kind of seemed to propel me into a different lane.
So from that moment, that, like I said, propels you into a different lane, and then you're on the radar of
that's a good way to say it.
Stuff, right? So then you're getting pulled in other directions. Hey, come here, come there. And then I guess it goes, like I said, to another level, right? You're traveling wherever off that. Continuing to write your own stuff too, and all that kind of thing.
So what I had done is, I remember whenever I started to feel like, okay, I think some things are actually happening. I had formed the band. Which at the time I was, just going by Graham Colton, but I had these band members that were these great musicians in Dallas, different age groups, different backgrounds. So we just kind of called ourselves the Graham Colton Band. And we had just started to kind of, like I said, play more full band kind of gigs. So no longer was I doing this acoustic thing. I had this great band, and I remember filling out manila envelopes to like all these different addresses of managers. You know, I was like, who manages these bands that are these big bands across the country, and how do I like reach them?
Yeah.
So I mailed out a bunch of envelopes, you know, with here's my CD, here's who I am, here's my biography, this is what I'm looking to do. And I got one response, and it was this manager from Virginia Beach who was connected with the Dave Matthews Band camp. He was also a promoter. So he was like, well, let me book you a kind of a tour, because he was like, you know, I book concerts across the country, especially in the South and the East. So he booked us this tour, and we drove from Dallas to Virginia. We played Washington, D.C. We played some universities. Yeah. And you talk about being it and hooked. I mean, you get on the road for the first time with your friends. You have a trailer. You're in a van. You play a show.
About,
I mean, this
right?
is it. Like, that was it. And it was just like, I mean, this sounds really cheesy, but it was just like, you just feel alive. You know, you're going to these new cities, and you're playing your own music, that these songs that you wrote for people to listen to them, and you're getting in the van and you're going to the next city. I mean, that's as somebody who's 19 years old. That's it.
So you'd kicked college at this point then?
I was kind of still, I think at that point, maybe I was still trying to make it work. But I distinctly remember before we got that first tour with opening for Counting Crows, which was in 2002.
Yeah.
I had emailed my professors and said, I'm going to have to send in my finals. Right. I'm going to have to find a way to take my final exams.
Yeah.
All of that is just a blur. But when we went on that first tour with Counting Crows, again, just another level of like, oh my God. I remember we started on that tour in Amherst, Massachusetts. I think it was or maybe it was Northampton, or wherever the University of Massachusetts is. Yeah. And, you know, Counting Crows was, for me, I mean, one of my favorite bands ever. Yeah. Like, that was the band that I listened to when I first got my driver's license. Like, that's the CD I put in. Yeah. So
some people listening don't remember having to put CDs in their cars.
But everybody can relate to like the band they love when they first get in their car and they put that song on, and you are free. Yeah. You know, that was it. And so to get asked to go on tour with that band, and I remember showing up in Massachusetts, we drove our van and our trailer, and we pull up, and I remember we walked into the arena, because we were playing this big arena, and the band is sound checking. Yeah. And you just are like, how did we get here? You know, like, it's like that Almost Famous kind of like, how it was bigger than life, you know? I mean, you're like, we're playing an arena tonight in Massachusetts. Yeah. Like, how does that happen?